So this is an explanation for everybody in English about how corruption happens in Mexico. How is it possible that so much corruption happens in Mexico? Okay, so first off, it's general knowledge by the whole population of Mexico how it works. Everybody here knows how it works. It's a surprise to me that the New York Times and the CNN people can't figure out how it works with all of their investigative reporters and their investigative resources available to them, how it is they never were able to report about it. Are they bought off too? Because the Mexican media is totally bought off. It's called reporteros chayoteros or prensa chayotera, okay, in Spanish. And that means that they're bought and paid for by the government. Okay, this is how it works. So I'm a father. I'm a teacher, let's say, at a university. So when I die or when I retire, I'm going to pass my job off to my child. That's one way. Okay. I'm going to give my job, my cush job with its good pay and its government, whatever, all the prestaciones de ley, as they call it here, the benefits. I'm going to pass it off to my child. And my child's going to get that, even though maybe my child doesn't have a degree, even though my child may not even be qualified to have the same job that I have. They'll still get it if they want it. It's basically called influence trafficking or peddling and by vinculo or by association. People buy their degrees and people buy their way into their jobs. Okay? Especially in the government. This is the absolute truth. I would say a majority, if not 80 to 90% of everybody in the government throughout the whole country is there through this way, a corrupt way that let them in, even though they're not qualified to have their jobs. I'd say really very rare has it been that I found actually someone who was actually qualified to have their job. The rest of everybody, fucking inept. Okay? Whether it's the Defensora de la República, whether it's the DEEF, whether it's a doctor who they present me with through the DEEF, she didn't even have a degree. She's not even a doctor. She's a lady who sells flan on the streets and cookies on the streets. That's how everybody knows her here. Nobody recognizes her as a doctor at all. And so it really brings into question who it is I let into my house. Because when I let people from the government into my house to look at my daughter, those people aren't even really qualified to make an evaluation about what my daughter is going through. So it's like shit. But I'm bringing this into question. I'm bringing this up in English, okay, for the CNN people and New York Times should they ever view my videos. Because why? Because this proves a very important point. There is not a viable government here. That's why the Ministerio Público never proceeds on any cases. They're not qualified to. They don't know how to even read the casework when a case is filed against somebody. They don't even know how to do anything. That's why nothing ever works here. They just collect a paycheck and go home and hope that nobody ever realizes what they do or don't know. And when somebody finally finds out, it's like, oh, well, I guess I got to give up my job and move on to the next one. And you know what usually happens when that happens? The Mexican government goes and puts them in a different state in the same type of job, similar job, but in a different state far away so nobody ever knows. And they keep collecting a paycheck from the government, even though they're not qualified to do so. So why is this important to mention? Because if there isn't a viable government in Mexico, and it's a narco government stealing organs from babies and shit like that, once my government decides in the Congress that the Mexican government's a narco government and not really a viable government, somebody like Donald Trump gets to power, he could just invade Mexico and take over because there's no government here. There's no justice system here. It doesn't work. So be careful what you wish for because this could be a very difficult year for a lot of people in both governments. And I wouldn't be surprised if something really bad happens. I'm just saying, you don't have to be a fucking psychic or a rocket scientist to figure out that this year is going to be a very bad year on the planet for a lot of people. It already is. Look at Ukraine. Look at Gaza. Look at Taiwan and China. Look at the Kurds in Turkey. Look at Lebanon, Iraq. Look at Yemen. Look at Pakistan. We're looking at Afghanistan, never forget that, right? We're looking at some serious problems all across the world that governments are causing, not people. Governments that are corrupt, causing the problems, foisting them on the people, and fucking up people's lives. And that shouldn't happen anymore. We're in the 21st century now. We were promised something better. When I was a kid in the 70s, we were told technology will make the world a better place, more beautiful, and everything will be better. These things won't exist anymore, blah, blah, blah. No, that's a big lie. They just got worse. Got more streamlined, maybe. More streaming. So, anyway, corruption in Mexico exists on a grand scale, and it's caused and promoted by the same people who are in power who shouldn't be in power because they're not qualified to be in power. They either bought their degrees or they bought their jobs, and they're just not qualified, period. And the people involved in my case are case in point. And should anything happen, I'm going to have all of them investigated as to whether or not they should even be in the position that they're in. Leopold Richard Bamberger Alavisa is reporting to you about the extremely high level of corruption in Mexico and possibly in the United States too, caused by people like Donald Trump and the Republicans who are desperately holding on to power. Thanks.